Well, shalom, shalom. Welcome, welcome, world changers. And thank you, Hannah, once again for the beautiful music. That was amazing. That was beautiful as always. Tonight, we have another critical thinking segment. We're going to be talking about Occam's razor tonight. Occam's razor. And then we're going to get into Joshua chapter 21. So the next few nights, we're going to at least aim to finish off the book of Joshua. So tonight's 21, Wednesday, tomorrow, that would be chapter 22. And then Thursday, we'll see if we can do 23 and 24 together. They're shorter chapters, so to speak. And then on Friday, we're going to have our anniversary celebration for the live stream. 4 years on the 22nd, this coming Friday. So we're going to be celebrating 4 years of going live like this, especially on YouTube, and over 2.5 million views in the meantime. I pray that everything that we share here tonight would be a great blessing to you, increase your knowledge of the scriptures, your knowledge of the things of heaven, your relationship with God, and your knowledge of the truth. Amen, amen, amen. So let's see what we have here in the live chat before we get into it. We have Calamento says shalom to all. Felix says hi everyone. Chipmunk says shalom everyone. Chipmunk says I sent 2 emails to read later, Christopher. Okay, well thank you. Thank you, Chipmunk. I'll have to look into that. Thank you for letting me know. Al says, shalom everyone, great blessings every day. And Seek the Lord says, shalom, shalom, shalom. Welcome to y'all. Blessings multiplied to you and your families. Chipmunk says, wonderful job, Hannah. Well, thank you on behalf of Hannah Chipmunk. It was wonderful. I do agree. Tonight, we're going to talk about something that we don't usually talk about when it comes to critical thinking, and that is Occam's razor. Now, there are several quote-unquote razors, as they call them, in the critical thinking world, and this is one of them, Occam's razor. So let me pull this up. There we have it. Tonight, we're going to add a powerful and famous tool to our mental toolkit. It's a principle that helps us slice through confusion and complexity like a sharp blade. It's called Occam's razor. Let me start with a simple scenario. You wake up with a headache. You consider 2 possible explanations. Number 1, well, you're slightly dehydrated and you didn't sleep well. Or number 2, an alien secretly implanted a microscopic tracking device in your brain while you were sleeping. Which explanation do you choose? You instantly and instinctively choose the first one. But why? It's because your brain is naturally using the principle of Occam's razor. Named after the 14th century philosopher William of Occam, this principle states when you are faced with competing explanations for the same phenomenon, the simplest one is usually the correct one. Tonight, we'll explore how to consciously use this razor to cut away unnecessary speculation in our studies and our thinking. The foundation, what quote-unquote simple really means. First, we need to be very clear about what the word simple means in this context. It does not mean the explanation that is easiest to understand, the explanation that is most comforting or satisfying, or the explanation that requires the least amount of thought. In the context of Occam's razor, quote-unquote simple means the explanation that requires the fewest new assumptions. It's the theory that relies most on the evidence we already have without inventing a bunch of new unproven entities or leaps of logic to make it work. It's about intellectual honesty and efficiency. Think of it like a detective solving a crime. Detective A's theory is based on the known evidence and a straightforward motive. Detective B's theory requires a secret international conspiracy, a long-lost twin, and a hidden treasure map. Both theories might technically explain the crime, but Detective A's is far stronger because it doesn't have to invent a host of new, unproven assumptions. How the razor sharpens our scripture study. This tool is incredibly useful for maintaining intellectual honesty when we approach a complex text like scripture. Here are 3 areas where it can help. Number 1, avoiding elaborate conspiracy theories. It can be tempting to connect unrelated verses from different books of Scripture, weaving them together to create elaborate hidden timelines of the future or to uncover secret codes. The problem is, these theories often require dozens of speculative assumptions to work. You have to assume that a word in one verse secretly refers to a concept in another, written hundreds of years later. You have to assume that the normal historical context doesn't apply. Applying the razor, Occam's razor asks, what's the simpler explanation? The simpler explanation is that the authors of these different books were addressing their own specific audiences with their own immediate concerns. The quote-unquote connections are often just our pattern-seeking brains working overtime. The simpler theory, based on historical context, requires far fewer speculative leaps than the complex conspiratorial one. Number 2, interpreting parables and stories. When Jesus tells a parable, like the story of the Good Samaritan, we can get lost trying to assign a secret allegorical meaning to every single detail. What does the oil represent? What about the wine? What about the 2 silver coins? The problem, this approach multiplies meanings beyond what the story requires, often burying the main point under a mountain of speculation. Applying the razor, what is the simplest explanation for why Jesus told this story? The text tells us he was directly answering the question, who is my neighbor? The simplest and most powerful interpretation is that the story has one primary point: to shatter the listener's prejudice and redefine what it means to love others. The oil and wine are just oil and wine, the common medical supplies of the day. The razor cuts away the unnecessary allegorical baggage that reveal the story's brilliant sharp edge. Number 3, understanding character motivation. When we read about a character doing something shocking like Lot offering his daughters to the mob in Sodom, our modern minds struggle to comprehend it. We might be tempted to invent complex, hidden psychological motives to explain it. The problem is we project our own modern psychology onto ancient characters, inventing explanations that might have no basis in their reality. Applying the razor. What's the simpler explanation that requires the fewest new assumptions? The fewest new assumptions. It's one grounded in the historical context we know. In a culture with a different and, to us, warped moral hierarchy, where the law of hospitality was absolute and women were treated as property, Lot made a desperate, panicked, and morally horrific choice based on the values of his time and place. This explanation is deeply disturbing, but it doesn't require us to invent a hidden psychology. It relies on the known, albeit difficult, facts of the cultural context. Today's challenge: Occam's razor isn't a foolproof law, but it's a powerful guide against the human tendency to prefer complex, exciting, and speculative theories over simpler, more grounded ones. It keeps our interpretations tethered to the evidence. Your challenge for today is to practice using the razor. The next time you encounter a complex theory or interpretation, whether it's from someone else or one you've come up with yourself, ask these two questions. What is the simplest explanation that fits the known facts? Number 2, how many new, unproven assumptions does my more complex theory require? You don't have to immediately abandon a complex idea, but the simple act of comparing the number of assumptions is a powerful critical thinking exercise. It helps you see how much of your theory is built on solid ground and how much is built on thin air. All right. Yeah, so there we go, folks, for the critical thinking point of the day, the critical thinking mini segment, if you will, of the day. So we are going to be reading Joshua chapter 21. We're plugging right along here in the book of Joshua and reading this chapter by chapter. But yesterday we doubled up on the chapters, and on Thursday as well, Lord willing, we will do the same thing. We'll double up on them and get it all out of the way, Lord willing, for the weekend, so that the entire book of Joshua is covered. Wait until we get into 1st and 2nd Kings versus 1st and 2nd Chronicles. Wow, folks. Wow. Talk about differences and contradictions. Yes, I did say contradictions. Not only between the manuscripts. That's another whole thing. I'm talking about within any given manuscript. You name it, okay? You'll see what I'm talking about here when we get to it, Lord willing. So yes, we've been going through the scriptures every night, and Lord willing, we'll get through the entirety of the canonical scriptures and the Apocrypha as well, and perhaps even after we get through all of that, all of the quote-unquote the Bible, including the Apocrypha, and I think we'll probably get into some of the pseudepigrapha as well, such as at least what they call the pseudepigrapha anyways, the book of Enoch, perhaps even go into the book of Jubilees and some of the other books afterwards. I want to get into Josephus, the Wars of the Jews, sometime in the future. I want to get into that and read that. I'm sure that we'll find some very interesting stuff in there. I know a lot of people talk about what Josephus wrote and how that, or if that applies to some of the Bible prophecies that many people call the end time prophecies. So, Lord willing, we'll get into that in the future. Hopefully sooner rather than later. So tonight we are on Joshua chapter 21. I'm going to do what I have been doing. I'm going to read the whole chapter first, and I'm reading it from the WEB translation. This is a translation of the Masoretic Hebrew text, the same Hebrew text that what we see, or what we use to get most English translations from, including everybody's favorite, King James, New King James, or NIV, NASB, CSB, ASV, RSV, in most of those English translations. So I'm going to read this, and then we're going to compare this with some of the more ancient, actually not some, well, I mean, the rest of the manuscripts that I'm going to be comparing it with tonight is going to be more ancient than this one. And I'm not talking about the translation. I'm talking about the underlying manuscript. Every once in a while, I know that there are some people that misunderstand what I mean when I say manuscript. They think that I'm talking about a translation or a version. No, I'm not. A manuscript is not a translation or a version. A manuscript is the foundation of that version / translation. So of course I am reading a translation, but the idea is I'm reading a translation of the English translation of the Masoretic Hebrew. I'm also going to be reading the English translation of the Septuagint, aka the Brenton Septuagint. So I'm going to be reading a little bit from that tonight, just comparing it with the Masoretic, as well as the Peshitta, otherwise known as the Syriac or the Aramaic. This is a translation of a translation, actually. It's the English translation of the Aramaic, which is a translation of the ancient Hebrew. Aramaic is commonly believed to be Jesus' native language. And then we have the Latin Vulgate, translated by Jerome. And so this is, I'm going to be reading the English translation of the Latin Vulgate. The oldest of these manuscripts is the Septuagint. The second is, up from there, so the Septuagint's over 2,000 plus years old. The Syriac Peshitta is about 1800s, give or take some years old. The Vulgate is about 1600, give or take some years old. Then the Masoretic is really not that old. It's only, well, in the finalized version of the Masoretic Hebrew, it's just a little bit over 1,000 years old. Not very old, all things considered, compared to the rest of the text. So let's begin. Joshua chapter 21, verse 1. Then the heads of the fathers' houses of the Levites came near to Eleazar the priest, and to Joshua son of Nun, and to the heads of the fathers' houses of the tribes of the children of Israel. They spoke to them at Shiloh, in the land of Canaan, saying, Yahweh commanded through Moses to give us cities to dwell in, with their pasture lands for our livestock. The children of Israel gave to the Levites out of their inheritance, according to the commandment of Yahweh, these cities with their pasture lands. Okay, so a little bit of backdrop here. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm not really set up for this, but you know what I'm going to do? I am going to play a little bit of the slideshow that I posted. Oops. What happened here? I hope I'm going to come back. Do y'all still hear me? Oh, there we are. Okay. All of a sudden I froze for just a moment. I'm thinking, oh no, am I going to have to restart everything and everything's going to go down? No. Okay. So I think that's just because of the what I'm doing here. I'm doing things on the fly, folks. So I mentioned this a couple times in recently, and that is I am rolling out some extra perks for those who support the work that we do here. You know, on YouTube, you can join the channel, and you got everything from a very nominal, very affordable $4.99. Actually, that's Canadian, so it's even it's less than that American. It comes out to 3 something American, I do believe, which is only about 12 cents a day. Very affordable. I mean, what do you get today for 12 cents a day? Well, you get a whole entire live stream here, okay? Very affordable. This is just to support a little bit of the, to support the live stream, and the perks that you get here is to, you get the live chat, members only live chat. You get members only meetings that we have, and by the way, Lord willing, we'll have our meeting. Not this Sunday, but I think it would be next Sunday. That'd be the 31st, Lord willing. This is a private video conference meeting. But there are other tiers. There are other tiers that you can choose to. You can choose to donate a little bit more than that to support the channel. And so there's like a medium tier, which I am rolling out a podcast that I direct. It's not necessarily me speaking. It's actually it's hard to tell because it's really, really good quality. It's a really good quality, but it is an AI voice thing that was directed by me. Okay. And it's really good. It's really good quality. I'll tell you. I mean, I listen to the ones that I post, and I learn from it as well. So that is posted. I'm rolling that out, posted for those who are supporting the channel in the a little bit higher ranges of the support, and then higher than that. I believe on YouTube it's a pillar. I think it's a pillar. I still have to double check here the different. I think it's pillar on YouTube, and on Subscribestar it would be the dedicated tier. Dedicated. Yeah. So I am rolling out. There's a slideshow, and I'm gonna play a little bit about of this slideshow right now, and I'm doing this because what it says here, what we're reading in Joshua 21, it's kind of a little bit hard to visualize it without actually seeing it in like the slideshow. So I'm gonna play a little bit of it. Now, again, bear with me, folks, because I'm not really set up for this. So hopefully it works right. I'll play a little bit of it. What I'm going to do here, I'm not going to play the whole thing because the whole thing is reserved for those who are supporting on those particular tiers. But I am going to go to a part of that slideshow, which would give us a little bit of a visual here. Let's see if I can get this to work.
All right, let's jump right in. We're going to...
Okay, hold on a second, folks. So this, I'm going to have to, yeah, so let me just pull it over there so you guys can see it better. And I'm going to start, let me see now. Where are we? Oh, you know what? Hold on a second, folks. Hold on. That was a previous one. Here we go.
Welcome to The Explainer. Now,
Okay, so let's go to... Okay, yeah, right about here.
until you got a fair trial. It was an ancient system of justice. And it's actually kind of cool to see how different ancient translations talk about this. The ancient Greek version calls the person the slayer. The Aramaic version uses manslayers. Different words, but they all point to the exact same legal idea. Someone who needs protection because of an unintentional killing.
All right, so here's the actual breakdown. The tribe of Levi was made up of several big family groups. The priestly line, the sons of Aaron, they got 13 cities. The rest of their Kohathite relatives got 10. The Gershonites got 13, and the Merarites got 12. And here's the crucial part. Notice how their cities came from all the other tribes. They were scattered.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there so you can see, yeah, it's just more of a visual here. We got the Kohathites from Aaron and the cities that they get, and then the rest of the Kohathites, the Gershonites, the Merarites. And so this is the kind of slideshow that is posted for those of you who are on the higher tiers of the support for the channel. But yeah, it's really it's valuable, to get that kind of a slideshow and get the visuals and the chart and all that kind of stuff. So what we're reading about here, in the context of the entire the entire timeline. So the book of Joshua starts where Moses left off. And so Moses died on the east of the Jordan. and he did not go across into the quote-unquote promised land. So it was Joshua in the second generation of the children of Israel that came out of Egypt that went into the promised land. From Joshua chapter 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, they were dividing the land into the appropriate allotments for each of the tribes. So last here we got the Levites. So the Levites, they do not get land. And so this is what this chapter is about, is like, what do we do with the Levites since they don't get their own land? You know, we're going to kind of divide them up into different, into the different tribes, basically. Put different cities for the Levites to dwell in. So this is what we are reading here in Joshua chapter 21. So let's continue. And by the way, that slideshow I've been posting almost every day for the past several days. I try to post as much as possible. Like I said, I am rolling it out because it's trying to work it into the schedule and into the agenda. So that is available to those on Subscribestar that subscribe to the dedicated tier and higher. Also available to those on YouTube that subscribe or that join the channel at the pillar level and higher. So those of you who are in those categories, you have the full slideshows for each of these live streams that we do here. All right, so back to the text. So, verse 3, the children of Israel gave to the Levites out of their inheritance, according to the commandment of Yahweh, these cities with their pasture lands. Verse 4, the lot came out for the families of the Kohathites. The children of Aaron the priest, who were of the Levites, had 13 cities by lot out of the tribe of Judah, and out of the tribe of the Simeonites, and out of the tribe of Benjamin. The rest of the children of Kohath had 10 cities by lot out of the families of the tribe of Ephraim, out of the tribe of Dan, and out of the tribe, a half tribe of Manasseh. Verse 6, the children of Gershon had 13 cities by lot out of the families of the tribe of Issachar, out of the tribe of Asher, out of the tribe of Naphtali, out of the tribe of the half tribe of Manasseh, and Bashan or Bashan. The children of Merari, according to their families, had 12 cities out of the tribe of Reuben, out of the tribe of Gad, out of the tribe of Zebulun. The children of Israel gave these cities with their pasture lands by lot to the Levites, as Yahweh commanded by Moses. They gave out of the tribe of the children of Judah, out of the tribe of the children of Simeon, these cities which are mentioned by name. And these were the children of Aaron out of the families of the Kohathites, who were of the children of Levi, for theirs was the first lot. They gave them to Kiriath Arba, they gave them Kiriath Arba, named after the father of Anak, also called Hebron, in the hill country of Judah, with its pasture lands around it. But they gave the fields of the city and its villages to Caleb the son of Jephunneh for his possession. To the children of Aaron the priest they gave Hebron with its pasture lands, the city of refuge for the manslayer, Libnah with its pasture lands, Yatir or Jatir with its pasture lands, Estimoa with its pasture lands, Holon with its pasture lands, Debir with its pasture lands, Ain with its pasture lands, Utah or Jutta, Juttah, with its pasture lands, Beth Shemesh with its pasture lands, 9 cities out of those 2 tribes. Out of the tribe of Benjamin, Gibeon, with its pasture lands, Geba with its pasture lands, Anathoth with its pasture lands, and Almon with its pasture lands, 4 cities. All the cities of the children of Aaron, the priests, were 13 cities with their pasture lands. The families of the children of Kohath, the Levites, even the rest of the children of Kohath, had the cities of their lot out of the tribe of Ephraim. They gave them Shechem with its pasture lands in the hill country of Ephraim, in the city of refuge for the manslayer, and Gezer with its pasture lands, Kibzaim with its pasture lands, and Beth Horon with its pasture lands, 4 cities. Out of the tribe of Dan, El Teki with its pasture lands, Gibbethon with its pasture lands, Aiyalon with its pasture lands, Gath Rimmon with its pasture lands, 4 cities. Out of the half tribe of Manasseh, Taanach with its pasture lands, and Gath Rimmon with its pasture lands, 2 cities. All the cities of the families of the rest of the children of Kohath were 10 with their pasture lands. They gave to the children of Gershon, of the families of the Levites, out of the half tribe of Manasseh, Golan in Bashan with its pasture lands, the city of refuge for the manslayer, and Be Eshtera with its pasture lands, 2 cities. Out of the tribe of Issachar, Kishion with its pasture lands, Debarath with its pasture lands, Yarmuth with its pasture lands, and Ganim with its pasture lands, 4 cities. Out of the tribe of Asher, Mishal with its pasture lands, Abdon with its pasture lands, Hekoth with its pasture lands, and Rehob with its pasture lands, 4 cities. Out of the tribe of Naphtali, Kadesh in Galilee with its pasture lands, the city of refuge for the manslayer, Hamath-dor with its pasture lands, and Kartan with its pasture lands, 3 cities. All the cities of the Gershonites according to their families were 13 cities with their pasture lands. To the families of the children of Merari, the rest of the Levites out of the tribe of Zebulun, Yokneam, or Jokneam, with its pasture lands, Karta with its pasture lands, Dimnah with its pasture lands, Nahalal with its pasture lands, 4 cities. Out of the tribe of Reuben, Bezer with its pasture lands, Yahaz with its pasture lands, Kedemoth with its pasture lands, and Mephaath with its pasture lands, 4 cities. I can't imagine pronouncing these names I guess, after you pronounce them 100 times, you can get used to it. Out of the tribe of Gad, Ramoth and Gilead with its pasture lands, the city of refuge for the manslayer, and Mahanaim with its pasture lands, Heshbon with its pasture lands, Yazer with its pasture lands, 4 cities in all. All these were the cities of the children of Merari according to their families, even the rest of the families of the Levites. Their lot was 12 cities. All the cities of the Levites among the possessions of the children of Israel were 48 cities with their pasture lands. Each of these cities included their pasture lands around them. It was this way with all these cities. So Yahweh gave to Israel all the land which he swore to give to their fathers. They possessed it and lived in it. Yahweh gave them rest all around according to all that he swore to their fathers. Not a man of all their enemies stood before them. Yahweh delivered all their enemies into their hand. Nothing failed of any good thing which Yahweh had spoken to the house of Israel. All came to pass. That's amazing. That's awesome. They were not surprised when they won. When their prayers were answered, they were not surprised. When their prayers were not answered, they were surprised. Back in Joshua chapter 7 is a good example of that. It's like they're always winning, and then all of a sudden they lost that one time, and it's like, whoa, what happened here? What happened? Why did we lose? Why isn't God with us? They were shocked. Today, we have a lot of Christians, they're shocked if they get their prayers answered. It's the other way around. Wow, God was really with us back then. It shouldn't be the other way around. It should be that, we walk in the impossible. And when something happens that it's contrary to us, we're like, whoa, what happened here? Where did we go wrong? What kind of quote unquote sin is in the camp? Okay, so let's get into the manuscript variations here. All right, so we have a slew of them, as you can imagine. We have a slew of them. Okay, so let's go back to verse 1. Verse 1. This, again, is from the WEB, based upon the Masoretic text, the most common manuscript, the Hebrew manuscript, the most common one that's used in the English Bibles that we have in the West today. So it says in verse 1, then the heads of the fathers' houses of the Levites came near to Eleazar the priest. I'm just going to stop there because this is where the manuscript variation lies, right in this part right here, the very first part of the verse. Then the heads of the fathers' houses of the Levites came near to Eleazar the priest. Septuagint, and the heads of the families of the sons of Levi drew near to Eleazar the priest. So this is pretty much the same as what we have in the Masoretic. Okay, a little bit different. Masoretic again. The heads of the fathers' houses of the Levites came near to Eleazar the priest. The heads of the heads of the families of the sons. So it doesn't say the heads of the fathers' houses explicitly, but it does say the heads of the families of the sons of Levi drew near to Eleazar the priest. Syriac. Let's see what we have here in the Syriac. And the heads of the priests and Levites approached Eleazar the priest and Yeshua son of Nun. Okay. Well, look at the difference we have here. So in the Masoretic text, the verse goes on from there, saying, and to the heads of the fathers' houses of the tribes of the children of Israel. The Peshitta, the Syriac manuscript, the Aramaic text does not have that at all. And it has heads of the priests. Not the heads of the families of the sons of Levi as the Septuagint, or the heads of the fathers' houses as the Masoretic, but rather the heads of the priests. And it cuts out the entire last part of that verse where it says in the Masoretic, and to the heads of the fathers' houses of the tribes of the children of Israel. And the Septuagint pretty much says the same thing. So we have a major difference here. Let's see what the Vulgate has to say. So the Vulgate says, then the princes of the families of Levi came to Eleazar the priest. And it also has the longer ending on this verse. So, meaningful difference, especially the Syriac. Okay? The Syriac might suggest more of a distinct dual representation. Dual representation, as compared to just the more general, heads of the Levites, heads of the fathers' houses. So it's more detailed in the first part of it, but it leaves out all the detail of the end of the verse. Verse 2. So this is something that we've noticed here throughout our studies, but in case you're new to this, this is something that you may not be aware of. So the WEB translation is based upon the Masoretic Hebrew, where it says Yahweh here, it's a translation of the Tetragrammaton, the Yud He Vav He, or as the Paleo Hebrew would have it, the Yud He Waw He, so the four-letter name of God. In the typical King James, I'm going to show you the typical King James here. It would just say Lord in all capitals, capital Lord. But just to prove what we're talking about here, so in the King James, we have it here, the capitals Lord. So the Septuagint just has Lord without just the capital L, but not the rest of it is. So it just basically like Adonai in the Greek instead of the Hebrew Yud He Vav He or Yud He Waw He. The Syriac, now the Syriac takes it a little bit further, saying Lord Jehovah, as opposed to just simply Lord or Yahweh. And the Vulgate as well follows like the convention of the Septuagint, if you will, just with the capital L. The rest of it is in lowercase. Okay, another thing here in the text, it says they spoke. So this is verse 2. They spoke to them at Shiloh in the land of Canaan, saying, Yahweh commanded through Moses to give us cities to dwell in, with their pasture lands for our livestock. So this is the phrase here to focus on: their pasture lands. The Septuagint says the country round about. Okay? So you can say, well, it means the same thing. Yep. You can say it means the same thing, depending on how you interpret it. But it is a different word. It's worded differently here. Pasture lands versus the country round about. Peshitta says simply fields. Not the country roundabout or pasture lands, but fields in the Peshitta. And in the Vulgate, it's even weirder. Suburbs. Suburbs is what we have there. So, country roundabout in the Septuagint is broad. Fields in the Peshitta, of course, this would imply agricultural use. In the Masoretic text, pasture lands, that would be that shines a different light on it, like it's specifically for grazing. And then in the Vulgate, we got suburbs, which is, again, it puts a totally different light on it, like as if it's like just the land directly adjacent to the cities. So different manuscripts really paint slightly different pictures of the text here. What was actually involved. Verse 3, Masoretic text. The children of Israel gave to the Levites out of their inheritance, according to the commandment of Yahweh, these cities with their pasture lands. Here's the phrase right here. The commandment of Yahweh. The Septuagint says, by the command of the Lord. The Peshitta, or the Syriac, says, the word of the mouth of Lord Jehovah. And the Vulgate says, commandment of the Lord. So the Syriac, word of the mouth of Lord Jehovah, emphasize, again, this is a different light that it puts on it, because it emphasizes more of a verbal nature of the divine instruction, which adds the a layer of detail that the other texts do not have. Skipping down to verse 6, folks. In verse 6, we have this name again. Now, we've seen this a couple times in the past little while. Bashan, or Bashan, Bashan. In the Septuagint, it's Basan, Basan, as opposed to Bashan. The Hebrew letter there is sin or shin. It's the same Hebrew letter, but depending on how you want to. Sometimes it's pronounced as an S, as in Samuel, and sometimes it's pronounced as an SH, as in Shalom. The Peshitta. Now here's where we get this again. Very different, different name. Bathnin, or Botnin. Matnin. I said Bath. Matnin. Mathnin. M as in Mary, Athn as in Nancy, In as in Nancy. Very different. Very, very different. Distinct difference in the specific geographical region named. So this could be just simply an alternative name to Bashan, or it could be another place. The Vulgate has Basin, just like the Septuagint. Going down to verse 9. Now this is where it gets a little bit interesting here. They gave, it gets the details here. Pay attention to the details, especially the tribes listed here. They gave out of the tribe of the children of Judah, out of the tribe of the children of Simeon, these cities which are mentioned by name. Judah, Simeon. And then it goes on. Now the Septuagint says, and out of the tribe of the children of Judah, check. Out of the tribe of the children of Simeon, check. And part of the tribe of the children of Benjamin. What? So the Septuagint adds Benjamin, not in the Masoretic text. Let's see what the other texts have to say. The Syriac, verse 9, and these are the names of the cities which they gave from the tribe of Yehuda, that's Judah, and from the tribe of Shimon, that's Simeon, cities by their names. Okay, so it's pretty much the same, except for just different pronunciations of the names. It's the same as the Masoretic text. Doesn't say anything about Benjamin in that one. The Vulgate, verse 9, out of the tribes of the children of Judah and of Simeon, Yeshua gave cities whose names are these. Okay, so for once, the Syriac, Peshitta, and the Vulgate and the Masoretic all agree, but the Septuagint, again, is the odd one out, explicitly includes Benjamin, while the other ones do not, potentially altering the perceived contribution of the tribes in this section. So very, very, very significant alterations we have, or variations, I should say. Verse 11. Verse 11. So it says, they gave them Kiriath Arba. The first named after the father of Anak, also called Hebron. Okay, so this is all we need to look at right here in this verse, the first half of the verse. They gave them Kiriath Arba, two names, Kiriath Arba, named after the father of Anak. See, this doesn't really make sense to me. How does Kiriath Arba and Anak, how is it say, hey, well, let's call this place, let's name this place after the father of Anak, also called Hebron. Let's name it Kiriath Arba. Like, where did they get that from? It's just really weird, in my estimation. It's really weird. Okay, so let's go back to the text here. Septuagint, verse 11. And they gave them to Kiriatharbach, Kiriatharbach, all one word instead of with a K, with Kiri. So the Masoretic had a K, like Kiriath, K-I-R-I-A-T-H, space A-R-B-A. The Septuagint has it all one word, but with a C, C-A-R-I-A-T-H, A-R-B-O-C. Not Kiriath Arba, but Kiriath Arbach. The metropolis of the sons of Anak. This is Hebron. Okay. The Syriac says, and they gave them to Kiriath Arba. They gave to them Kuriath with a Q, Kuriath Arba, of the father of the giants. That which is Hebron. And the Vulgate says the city of Arbe, the father of Anak, which is called Hebron. So it doesn't say anything about Kiriath or Kuriath or Kariath. It's not Arba or Arbach, but simply Arbe, the city of Arbe, the father of Enoch, which is called Hebron or Hebron. So while we have the quote-unquote father of Anak, we have consistency across the manuscripts. The Syriac says father of the giants. So this would likely be referring to the Anakim, or literally the Anaks. Anak plural, which would be more like the children of Anak, but it just says the father of giants. So that's different. So it's a more descriptive characterization of the person Arba, highlighting that this person is a giant or giants. These people are giants. And then we have the Septuagint that adds the metropolis of the sons of Enac, E-N-A-C. Next verse, verse 12. But they gave the fields of the city and its villages to Caleb the son of Jephunneh for his possession. So here's what we should focus on right here. They gave the fields of the city. Okay? Excuse me. And then we have the Septuagint that says, no, hold on a second, I got to double check to see if it's the same verse. But the lands of the city and its villages Joshua gave. So it's not they there at all in the Septuagint. It's Joshua, and Joshua alone. And the order, of course, of the words and the phrases here in this sentence is different than that of the Masoretic text. The Syriac says, and the fields of the city and the rest of its suburbs they gave to Caleb, or Caleb. And then the Vulgate says, but the fields and the villages thereof he had given to Caleb. So look at the differences we have here throughout between the manuscripts. He versus, so Vulgate says he. Syriac says they. Septuagint says Joshua. Masoretic says they. They, he, Joshua. Now, there is what I'm going to do, at least for now, because this is very this can get very very detailed here. So I'm just going to briefly go over some of these names. Not all of them, because there's so many of them. There's so many different variations and so many different names. Names that are missing, names that are added, names that are very different. So we got verses 14 through 18. And then we have verses 21 through 25. And then we have verses 27 through 32. And then we have verses 34 through verse 39. The city names here, folks, they differ significantly in the sometimes just phonetically, and sometimes it's like some cities are missing, some cities are added, some cities are completely different. Like, for example, we have like, where do we start here? Because there's so many differences. Well, like just the first one, for example, just the first one, Yatir or Jater, versus in the Septuagint is Elam. See this? See how different this is. A totally different word, totally different name here. In the Syriac we have Yarath. In the Vulgate we have Jether or Jether. Okay, so that's just an example. I'm not going to go through all of them. Some of them are similar, but most of them are just so different. Like we got like Debat versus Rabbah versus Debaroth, Debon versus Akrun versus Abdon. And we saw this before. We got like Kadesh versus Rakem versus Kadesh. You know? Very, very different throughout between all of these texts. So, without going into an extreme amount of detail here, I'll just say this, okay? So for those of you who are you want some extra work on your own personal time, here's something you can do. You can get a hold of these manuscripts and compare the texts. These variations highlight an extremely diverse transliteration of these names and possible even textual traditions, different textual traditions regarding the geographical names between the manuscripts. Some are just simple phonetic differences. Others are entirely distinct names. Which could be, you can say, well, how can this be? How can you have these names that are just like totally different names? It could be just the differences in the local spellings or corruption over time, depending on the manuscript variation. Or they could be entirely different places. Okay? Either local spellings are different, and or the corruption of the text. We know that happened so often. And also, it also could be just simply just entirely different places it's talking about. Just like contradictions, entirely different. And many of these things, it's almost impossible to prove whether it's a completely different place or not. All that we can say is that many of these names are completely different. Other ones are very, very different. You can say, well, how is it that, how could there be corruption over time? Well, you look at it even in the past couple hundred years with our names that we have. I don't know how many of you have ever done this, but if you look back in your family history, it's very likely that your name, your family name, your surname morphs into different spellings over time. So that's something that it happens very, very common. In fact, it's almost, it's expected. And when you have like 1,000 years difference between the oldest of these manuscripts and the youngest of these manuscripts, wow, you can, it's expected. It's not, it's just the way it goes, right? It's the way the ink flows, folks. It's the way the ink of the scribes flow. So again, without going into too much detail there, let's move on to other manuscript variations other than all of those umpteen, probably over 100 at least, different names that we can be comparing here all night. So back to the text here. Let's go to verse 22. Verse 22. Okay, all right. So in the Masoretic Hebrew, WEB translation, Kibzaim with its pasture lands and Beth Horon with its pasture lands, 4 cities. So Kibzaim with its pasture lands and Beth Horon. Horon, N with as in Nancy. Now, the Syriac says Kabzin, Qabtsin, and its fields and Kuroth and Beit or Beth Quran and its fields, 4 cities and their fields. The Vulgate says, and Kibsaim and Beit Horon and their suburbs, 4 cities. So between the Vulgate and the Peshitta, the Syriac, and the Masoretic, the names of the cities are at least vaguely similar. We go to the Septuagint, verse 22, and it says, and Bethoron and its suburbs, 4 cities. Well, what happened to Kabzaim? What happened to Kabzaim? It's not there. The number 4 is the same, but where's Kabzaim? The Peshitta says Kabstin. That would be Kabzaim, I would assume. And then, same with the Vulgate. So all of them, except for the Septuagint, mention Kibsaim or Kabsaim, Kabstin is seen, but the Septuagint doesn't have that city in there at all. It's not there. Verse 25. Out of the half-tribe of Manasseh, Ta'anak with its pasture lands, and Gath Rimmon with its pasture lands, 2 cities. Okay, so we're looking at Gath Rimmon. That's the name we're looking at here. The Syriac says, and from the half-tribe of Manasseh, Tanakh and its fields, Geth Rimmon. So it's similar. I mean, vaguely similar. Gath Rimmon versus Geth Rimmon. Taking into consideration that the ancient Hebrew did not have the vowels, we still have the same consonants, the G, TH, R, M, and N, in both the Masoretic and in the Syriac. The Vulgate says Geth Rimmon. So different, slightly different in the vowels, but it's still the same. Now, watch this, folks. The Septuagint says, out of the half-tribe of Manasseh, Tanakh and its suburbs, and Jabbatha and its suburbs, 2 cities. Jabbatha, Jebatha. What is this? Where did this come from? Apparently that is either Gath Rimmon or it's another city. But Gath Rimmon is not found in the Septuagint. Instead, we got Jabbatha. So this is a clear discrepancy in the name of one of the 2 cities assigned to the half-tribe of Manasseh, indicating a distinct textual tradition for this detail. Verse 26. All the cities of the families of the rest of the children of Kohath were 10 with their pasture lands. Septuagint, verse 26. In all were given 10 cities, and the suburbs of each belonging to them, to the families of the sons of Kohath that remained. So compare that with the Masoretic. So it's not Kohath, it's Kohath in the Masoretic. However, it pretty much, it's very similar. In all that were given 10 cities, the suburbs of each belonging to them, to the families of the sons of Kohath that remained. Whereas the Masoretic, all the cities of the families of the rest of the children of Kohath were 10 in their pasture lands. So pretty much says the same thing, just in a different way. The Syriac says, and for the children of Geshurun, and all the towns of the 10 cities and their fields were for the tribe of the children of Kohath who remained. Okay, so again, that is compatible with all the rest of the manuscripts. So they're all pretty much the same there. The Vulgate now, watch this. And all the cities were 10 with their suburbs, which were given to the children of Kohath, of the inferior degree. What? Of the inferior degree? What does this mean? Where did this come from? So, I mean, you could say that this detail would imply that a hierarchical distinction or a specific status of this group of the Kohathites, which is not conveyed to us through any of the other scriptures. Hubert, shalom, shalom, welcome and blessings multiplied to you and your family. Yeah, we're digging into this deeper than we've ever dug into it before. Verse 27. So, the Masoretic text here, WEB translation of the Masoretic text. Let's just focus on the first. It's a long verse. Let's just look at this. In the first, it says, they gave to the children of Gershon. They gave. This is all we need to know for the variation here. They gave. The Septuagint says, and Joshua gave to the sons of Gedson. Not Gershon, but Gedson. Kubert says, thank you. Blessings to you and your family also. Well, thank you, Kuberts. God bless you more. And then we have the Septuagint. Yeah. So Joshua gave is in italics, which means that it is not in the original manuscripts. Okay. So this was added by the translators of the Brenton translators, I would assume. The Peshitta says, and for the children of Gershon from the tribe of the Levites were the towns. So it doesn't say they gave or he gave or any kind of, it doesn't really specify who gave, but just that they got it anyway here in the Syriac, no matter which way you look at it. The Vulgate, to the children of Gershon, also of the race of Levi, out of the half-tribe of Manasseh, Golan and Bashan, one of the cities. Okay, so again, in the Vulgate, it doesn't specify who gave, how many of them gave, what, but you got the punchline anyway there. Verses 34 to 37. Mentioned this earlier. So we have the order of these cities are different between the manuscripts. So in verse 34, it says, this is from the WEB, the Masoretic, to the families of the children of Merari, the rest of the Levites out of the tribe of Zebulun, Yokneam with its pasture lands. That's the first thing. The Septuagint says, and to the family of the sons of Merari, the Levites that remained, he gave out of the half-tribe of Zabulon. Okay, that's there. Ma'an and its suburbs. So Yokneam is not there. It's Ma'an. Ma'an. The Peshitta, the Syriac says, well, this is really different too, because for the tribe of the children of Merari to the Levites who were left of the cities from the tribe of Reuben. So the tribe of Reuben was the first one. And then after that's the tribe of Zebulun. Like, it's in different order as opposed to the Masoretic being the tribe of Zebulun first, and then the tribe of Reuben in verse 36 in the Masoretic. The Septuagint is as well, yeah. So the Septuagint also has Zebulun first, and then Reuben after that. But the Peshitta, or the Syriac, has it the other way around. And so this is just entirely a mixed bag of order, reordering, disordering. It's like taking the names and putting them in a drum and just pulling them. We have many of these names that correspond to other manuscripts, but they're in a different order. A different order. So in the Masoretic, we got Zebulun first, then we have Reuben. After that, we have Gad. The Septuagint, we have Zebulun first, we have Reuben, and after that we have Gad. So that order is fine. But the Syriac, we have Reuben first, then Zebulun, and then Gad. So in the Syriac here, let's say Zebulun, for example. It's got Nekok, Kartha, and Raman, and Yala. Nekok, Karthan, Raman, and Yala. That's for Zebulun. In the Masoretic text, Zebulun has Yokneam, Karta, Dimna, and Nalal. Very, very, very different. Septuagint, Zebulun has Ma'an, Kades, Selah. In the Vulgate, Zebulun has Yeknam, Kartha, Damna, Na'olol. Yeah. So, Kubert says everyone different. Yeah, I know. I'm struggling to keep up with the differences here. It's strikingly different. Strikingly different. That is amazing. Yeah, so, when I'm thinking back in the day when I used to attend a lot of Bible studies. I used to attend every Bible study I could go to, I went to. And to think of it now, like, if you're only studying from one manuscript, like how limited that is. Anybody that would do that, and if in the light of what we're doing tonight, in the light of all of these major differences, like Kubert says, everyone different. If anybody says, oh no, I'm just going to stick to my favorite manuscript, I would seriously and honestly ask them why. Why stick to that one? Why not compare the others? Is there, do you have evidence that the one that you like is the more accurate one? Wow. So yeah, we've got some major differences here. So much I'm struggling here to keep up with the differences. So you might say, what does it mean here? And like, what is the what's the implications behind this? So obviously there's fundamental differences here in the arrangement of the information we have in these chapters or in these verses for the Masoretic's location. So the differences here could reflect an underlying source of a variant or editorial choices. The consequence of all this is that the specific cities named here in these verses differ based on which tribe is being listed. And then, if that's not enough, within all of these sequences here, this is verses 34 all the way to 38, the number of named cities within a single verse for a tribe can differ. In the Vulgate, verse 36, we have the cities for the tribe of Reuben. Bosor, that's one. Misor, two. Bosor. Okay, hold on. I got it. Bosor in the wilderness, one of the cities of refuge. Misor, 2, 3. Yezer, 4. It's Yethson, 5. Mephaath, 5. But it says 4 cities. What? It lists 5, right? Am I missing something, people? Let me know in the live chat. Am I missing something? Bosor, Misor, 2, Yezer, 3, Yethson, 4, and then Mephaath is 5. Did I get that wrong, folks? Let me know. The Brenton Septuagint we have Bosor 1, Miso 2, Yezer 3, Dekmon 4, and Mapha 5. But then it says 4 cities. Verse 35. Dimna with its pasture lands and Nahalal with its pasture lands, 4 cities. Dimna, so this is now Zebulun. 4 cities. Peshitta, 4 towns. Vulgate. The Vulgate doesn't even mention what the number is. but the Brenton says 3 cities. So we got 4 in the Masoretic, 4 in the Syriac, and 3 in the Septuagint. Verse 42. Each of these cities included their pasture lands around them. It was this way with all these cities. The Peshitta, verse 42. But the towns and the cities, these towns and their fields surrounding them, and all these towns and cities were thus situated. Vulgate, verse 42. And he gave them peace from all nations around about, and none of their enemies dare stand against them, but were brought under their dominion. Well, that's different. So the Masoretic says each one of these cities included their pasture lands around them. It was this way with all these cities. Peshitta. But the towns and cities, these towns and their fields surrounding them, and all these towns and the cities were thus situated. Vulgate, and he gave them peace. Is this the same? Is this the same verse? Verse 42. Is this the same verse? Because look at, in the Vulgate, it's the second last verse. It looks like it would. It looks like it should be verse 40 in the Vulgate. With their suburbs, each distributed by their families. Hold on. Where in the world? Okay, so the verse preceding that in the Masoretic talks about 48 cities, and the verse following that talks about Yahweh give to Israel the land which he swore to their fathers, possessed and lived in it. So the Vulgate, yeah, so it's a completely different verse in the Vulgate. It's verse 40 instead of verse 42. With their suburbs each distributed by their families. Okay, with their suburbs each distributed by their families versus but the towns and the cities, these towns and their fields surrounding them, and all these towns and cities were thus situated, versus each of the cities. This is the Masoretic, says each of the cities, these cities included their pasture lands round about them. It was this way with all these cities. Now, the Septuagint, verse 42. And a city and the suburbs round about the cities to all these cities. Hold on a minute, folks. Look at this. Look at how much more we have in verse 42. This is what we have. So it starts out like all the other manuscripts, and the city and the suburbs round about the city to all these cities. Okay, and then it goes into a different narrative. And Joshua ceased dividing the land by their borders, and the children of Israel gave a portion to Joshua because of the commandment of the Lord. They gave him the city which he asked. They gave him Thanasachar in Mount Ephraim, and Joshua built the city and dwelt in it. And Joshua took the knives of stone wherewith he circumcised the children of Israel that were born in the desert by the way, and he put them in Thamna Sakar. Wow. So this entire narrative, this entire thing, all that I have highlighted here, is not in any of the other manuscripts. Those who only read the typical English Bible based upon the Masoretic text, they don't get any of this. They don't hear any of this. Same with this, the Peshitta, the Syriac, and the Latin Vulgate. That would mean that especially the Roman Catholics, they wouldn't get any of this unless they use the Septuagint. Wow. So this contains an entire extended narrative that describes Joshua finishing the land division, the children of Israel giving Joshua his own portion by divine command, and Joshua building and dwelling in this city, and Joshua placing the stone knives used for circumcision there. Nobody else would know this unless you had the Septuagint. So the Septuagint provides substantial extra biographical and historical detail about Joshua's personal inheritance and a significant cultural religious artifact. This would be the stone knives, which is entirely absent from all the other manuscripts provided. This, what you see here, folks, represents a major textual expansion, unique only to the Septuagint. Verse 44. Masoretic text. Yahweh gave them rest all around, according to all that he swore to their fathers. Not a man of all their enemies stood before them. Yahweh delivered all their enemies into their hand. Okay. So the phrases here to look at is the Lord or Yahweh gave them rest. And again, the Lord or Yahweh gave them rest in the very beginning of it. In the Septuagint, verse 44, and the Lord gave them rest round about. The Peshitta, the Syriac, says, and Lord Jehovah gave rest to them from all their surroundings. The Vulgate. Now, where is it now? So that would be verse 42. He gave them peace from all nations round about. So the meaningful difference here is the interpretation of the word rest or the word peace, because typically when you think of rest, you're thinking about just the rest from labor, or even rest from war, if you will. So this here specific is peace is a broader term, which doesn't necessarily mean war, as in national war. It could be talking about just the relations between the people, as personal relations, as opposed to national relations. Just the absence of conflict as a whole. So even though the word peace and the word rest is very closely related. The word choice here, that all the other manuscripts choose the word rest except for the Vulgate, the word choice highlights a slightly different aspect of the divine blessing. So this could give us a little bit different, paint a little bit different picture for us than the other texts could. Okay, well, that is it, folks, for the chapter. And I hesitate to say that's it for the variants because, as again, we skipped over a lot of variants between the names of all those other verses, all those other cities. There are so many variants in there. But that's that's what we have here for tonight, folks. Kubert says, I guess if you have peace, you're at rest. Yes, absolutely, yeah. That's it. Thank you, Kuberts. So, all right, folks, if you haven't already, please leave a like, subscribe, and follow. If you haven't already, we do this every single night, and we've been doing this for almost exactly 4 years. This Friday, just in a few days, it will mark the 4th year that we said, okay, let's do it. Let's go for it. We're gonna run the marathon of going live on YouTube every single day, and all the other platforms as well. I mean, almost all the other ones. We've been live on most of these platforms almost every day. Kick is a little relatively new. We got Facebook, DLive, and some of these other ones we've been live as well, very, very, very often. YouTube is the primary platform that we're focused on there, folks. So yeah, we are live right now on several different platforms. If you are, if you're active on any of these platforms, like Kick, Facebook, Twitch, DLive, Rumble, Trovo, Instagram, BitChute, or X, please go over there and find me. Just go over there and search for Christopher Enoch, and you should be able to find me. If on X, though, my handle is at Heaven's Worship, not necessarily Christopher Enoch. Although you should be able to find me anyway if you just search for Christopher Enoch. All right, folks. Chipmunk says, great study, Christopher. Thank you very much. Blessings to everyone and good rest. Check out your email. Got a nice testimony video. All right. Well, thank you, Chipmunk. I'm looking forward to that. Thank you. And blessings multiplied to you and yours. And you have a good night. And Seek the Lord says, thank you for your time, Brother Christopher. God bless you and all here richly and abundantly. See you tomorrow. Thank you, Seek the Lord. God bless you more. Blessings multiplied to you and your family. Hubert says, thank you, Brother Christopher. I appreciate the teachings and all the time you dedicate to them. Blessings all. Thank you, Huberts. I appreciate you as well. Blessings to you and your family. And Al says, thank you so much for your awesome study always. God bless you and shalom, everyone here. Have a great night all. Thank you, Al. You too. Have a great night and blessings and shalom multiplied to you and your family. Okay, folks. Yeah, so Friday we'll have the special live stream of celebration. We're celebrating 4 years of going live, and we're also celebrating 2.5 plus over 2.5 million views during that 4-year period. All right, folks, if you are a subscriber, if you're following, and if you frequent here, if you say, you know what, Christopher, I'm hanging in the shadows here every once in a while. It seems like you find you found some value here, and that's awesome. Please consider becoming a member of the channel. There are member benefits to this. You can do that by clicking on the join button underneath on YouTube, or going to the join the channel link in the description as well, or also going on Subscribestar as well. We do have a Subscribestar page where you can join over there as well to help support the channel. And thank you for those of you who are supporting. It is much needed and appreciated. Blessings, blessings multiplied to you guys. God bless you exponentially more. Okay, guys, so we'll see you tomorrow evening, Lord willing, at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. New York time. Blessings, blessings. Keep on calling on him, and he will show you great and mighty things, things that you don't know. Love you guys. You guys are world changers. Good health and long life to you. I pray the Lord bless you and keep you, make his face to shine upon you, lift up his countenance upon you, and give you wonderful, wonderful shalom. Amen, amen. We'll see you guys tomorrow.